Om Kayena vacha manasyendrayirva bhutyatmanava prakriti swabhava karomi adyat sakalam pareisma narayanayethi samarpayami Narayanayeti samarpayami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. In this series of videos, we are going to talk about Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, of divine love, of God realization. So we are going to talk about the Narada Bhakti Sutras, a beautiful work attributed to sage Narada that talks about in full length of the path of devotion. May you all find inspiration in this work. May you all find meaning and purpose in your spiritual quest through these words. This kind of work, these words, these sutras, they bring light and they open the door to the life of the real quest for liberation. May you also find divine love in your heart. So now let's start the Narada Bhakti Sutras. So the first chapter speaks about the nature of divine love. And the first sutra goes, now therefore we shall expound devotion. So opening with the sutra that speaks about the subject matter. So let us remind, it's important to remind that this was a dialogue that happened between Narada and Sri Vedvyas. So Sri Vedvyas was not an ordinary being. He had a lot of knowledge and he was a very, very high soul. So this dialogue was between these two characters. It is a blessing to be able to receive these sutras from Narada. And it is possible only for a high soul. So the quality of the receiver of divine knowledge is very important, so that everything bears fruit in a sense, but it can take more or less time depending on the level of purity of the seeker. So this is important to bear in mind, especially in times where you see no progress. And it is only difficult. That means you need to persist and continue, because there are impurities there that without being removed, you cannot grow. But there's always something happening. If you are working, if you are dedicating to your quest for God, you will find it. So, Bhakti is a path for all. Anyone can practice it. But some qualifications are needed. Well, they can be very basic. Just one qualification. Even with one, it is possible. That's the beauty of Bhakti. But the more qualifications, the faster it goes. So, an aspirant cannot take to the deep study of philosophy and spiritual practice without preparation, without proper qualifications, some say. And here there's a central point which needs to be talked clearly. In all spiritual disciplines, in all the spiritual quest, humility is the central point of everything. Humility gives birth to devotion, to surrender, to God communion, to liberation. Humility is the marker of your spiritual path. As it increases, you are growing, outgrowing your little self. If it's not increasing humility, nothing much is happening. There's always something that you're doing, intense spiritual disciplines. But if that is not bringing humility, the cycles have not finished, because the cycle finishes always in humility. It is central to all. It is the path to purity, humility. And the humbled, it is the humble one, the most humble, that pleases God the most. Not the more knowledgeable, not any of that, the more humble, despite the rest. So, the aspirant must be endowed with aspiration for God realization, or else it doesn't make sense. Faith in God, faith in the Guru. This is very important because it will help you, and it will help you to devote yourself, to dedicate yourself, because a doubting mind is a very big obstacle. So, devotion, tolerance, patience, perseverance, forgiveness, mercy, serenity, cheerfulness, courage, non-violence, truthfulness, purity, or brahmacharya. There are a lot of ones. It talks about, essentially, in a soft heart, a compassionate heart, a heart which is alive, which has empathy with others, that feels. This is very important. And again, this humility plays a very significant role, because the increase of humility allows these qualities to rise, to manifest. In the absence of it, it's much more difficult. Without humility, there's no really tolerance, patience, perseverance, forgiveness, mercy, none of that. Serenity talks about also a calm mind that is not assailed by desires. Cheerfulness, being cheerful. Courage is an important trait, a very important trait in the quest for God, in all spiritual paths, because you are crossing over your limitations in some way, because as you embrace, in this case, in the case of bhakti, as you embrace exclusively God, you turn your back to other things. And without courage, it's very difficult. If your love for God and trust for God is very, very strong, then it's not about courage. Courage doesn't enter anymore. It's about surrendering. Like a newborn baby. He surrenders to the mother, he is surrendered to the mother. So, and it's not an act of courage by doing so. His condition brings this naturally. So non-violence, of course, non-violence, it is contrary to this softness, to this recognition of life in the other, recognition of God everywhere. Truthfulness is also essential in the path of devotion. Falsehood is a very big enemy of devotion. Purity or brahmacharya, spirit of selfless service. Again, the path of bhakti speaks about serving God, in loving service to God. So this disposition needs to be there. Dispassion, yes. Renunciation. So a dispassion is the lack of interest for worldly things, sense objects, worldly objects. Renunciation. Without renunciation also, it is difficult. So a certain level of renunciation has to be present. Renunciation, at least, of everything which is worldly in nature. And this will be better explained moving on. So this is why I'm not getting in too much into these things, just presenting the concepts. And one-pointed mind. This is very important. God should be the only thing your mind holds on to. The only thing. Your mind, your heart, everything should be in God. So this is the preparation for the love of God. So a few key aspects which are important for the beauties of the path of devotion to be lived, because all quest for the divine is like this. But Bhakti speaks more directly to it because it is in the beginning. It begins with love. Because if there's no love, there's no bhakti. So it begins with love and it ends in love. And the path of the real devotee, and the tests are there to qualify oneself to become a real devotee. They are full of unimaginable beauties. It is pure nectar. But for this to be even possible, some things have to be there. So the aspirant needs to have faith in the grace of God. He needs to work upon his merit, yes, but also have faith in the grace of God. That he will be showered with grace. Or else sometimes it seems that it's impossible. But if you have faith in the grace of God, it will come to you and it will help you when you really need it. He must have an intense desire to attain God realization, because if it's not intense, you will not be able to tread the path of devotion really, because you will be interrupting with other things. And as it is not yet one-pointed, it's not really yet. And you must have deep faith in the scriptures and in the Guru. This also will help you, because a doubtful mind is an impure mind, and it cuts your strengths to continue. And the Guru gives credit to the scriptures gives credit to the Guru, because the scriptures are the words of God. And the Guru speaks the same, usually in different language, in different ways, but the core is the same. So you need to have faith in it, and that will help you to move. So Others speaks about 7 qualifications for bhakti. Viveka, to be discriminative. There's the discrimination, different types of discrimination. The highest, of course, is discrimination of what is real and what is illusion. So that is the highest. But discrimination in food, whatever you perceive, you interact with the 5 senses. Because whatever you touch, smell, taste, listen to, I'm not sure if, and see, this will help a lot or will be a big obstacle. So the food that you are taking, this is food. Everything you are taking through the 5 senses is food. And you have to be very selective. Because if your food is worldly, you will become worldly. And if your food is divine, you will become divine. Vimoksha, freedom from desires. Because if you're not free from desires, at least a lot of them, at a great extent, you will not be able to be one-pointed towards God. So freedom from desires is an important qualification. Abhyas, it talks about practice. It is the capacity to maintain practice for long periods of time without interrupting until you achieve what you start off for. And an aspect which is important to abhyas, sometimes it is, or spiritual practice, sometimes it is conditioned only to meditation, mantras, bhajans, kirtans, and the rest doesn't count. But this is the mistake. All the time is practice. Whatever you are doing is a practice. So, and if everything is spiritual in nature, is devotional in nature, your love will increase tremendously. You will get purified quickly. But if you make this separation and use time for worldly things, then kriya, or the habit of doing good to others. So the path of devotion, like I said previous, talks about a soft, living heart, a compassion heart. It doesn't mean that those who don't have it cannot grow into bhakti. But eventually they'll have to go through this and develop this which is missing, because love is about a living heart. And if that love and compassion is not there, that heart is in a way dead, dense, blocked, and it needs to become alive again. Kalyana, purity of thought, word, and deed. Non-violence, charity, and other virtues. We will speak about this more. This is introduction to these concepts. Anavasada, cheerfulness, and anudarsa, absence of excessive hilarity. So a positive attitude in the path of bhakti is very important, and it will help you in the long run. So bhakti leads to God realization and the fulfillment of the devotee's most heartfelt desires. Desires, not worldly desires. Desire for God, for that loving communion with God. The desire, that which impels seekers towards the quest for liberation, is this ultimate communion. There's a thirst in the heart for this that many times is not understood because your context doesn't allow this. And the path of Bhakti Yoga is the sweetest one. And in this journey, if you are one pointed into God, serving God, lovingly serving God, then the experience of love that you will have, you cannot even imagine them. They are very beautiful, sweet as nectar. But for this communion to be possible at its fullest, love for God has to be love for God alone. Not love for God so that He gives me certain things. There cannot be any interests. Not even, it reaches a level that not even liberation. It is love for love's sake, love for God only. The beauty is available to all, but not all can see it. Okay.
Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva Tvameva bandhushka sakha Tvameva Tvameva vidya dravinam Tvameva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva